terms of Newcastle tomorrow, they're unbeaten since their loss to Brighton. St James's Park has become a fortress of late. And how much of a test are you expecting?
A big one of the toughest places to go and win. We've done it. It's nothing new to it. We know what we expect. Very, very clear what they do, what the strengths are, where the opportunities are as well for us. And we will try to take the game where we want.
Yeah, well, I think Arsenal last year, it speaks for itself what they achieved. I thought they were so close to winning the league, and then in the summer I thought they recruited really well. Obvious player who's such an impressive individual and player is Declan Rice, and I think when you add him to their midfield, I think he's got unique qualities. So I think they've moved on from last year, and I think they've mentally moved on from what happened, and I think they've performed very well, as you say, unbeaten. So really big test of our credentials. I think we're looking forward to the game, but Mikel's done a brilliant job there.
What do you make of the job that Eddie Howe's done? Because I think when Newcastle were taken over and became the richest club in the world, a lot of people wondered whether or not he would be able to take them to the next level.
Huge credit to him. I think he has transformed the club, the environment, the atmosphere, what he has created in the team as well, such a belief in what they do, and that's a huge compliment to him for what they've done.
I think you've both, in a way, done similar jobs with the clubs you're at.
I don't know. Every club is different. I have huge credit for what he's done, the way he's done it, the way his team plays, the environment that he has created is fantastic. And yeah, he had a lot of support, which we all needed as well.
2 good battles with them last season, didn't you? You got a great point in London, and then you lost the home match, but some controversy at the start with a penalty, but you were certainly in that game, weren't you, competing with Arsenal?
Yeah, it's funny, watched that game back in preparation for this one as part of our preparation, and you always watch it back with a different eye, because when you're there and you're watching it back a couple of days later, or at the time you're emotional about the game, and then you watch it a few months later, and I thought we played really well actually, and we were unlucky to lose. I thought it was a really good game between 2 elite teams. So I think we can take a lot from that game, and a lot of confidence from our general performance.
Before you arrived at Arsenal, the records away from home, there were some issues with it, but you really addressed that, especially against big teams and tough places to go. You've seen a win in Seville this season, and last season you won at Newcastle as well. What can you pinpoint as to the reason why that's changed so dramatically under your tenure?
Well, first of all, belief, and then performances. You need to, first of all, be so convinced that you go tomorrow to Newcastle and you fully believe that you're going to win the game. And it has to be really clear what we have to do in order to achieve that. And then, obviously, quality and talent to get the performances that we need, and that's down to the players.
Going back to Arsene Wenger, you were talking about him earlier. What was your favourite Arsenal side of his, and did he and those sides, did that inspire you in your coaching philosophy more than anything else?
Definitely did, because it coincided when Jason and I started our coaching journey. I'm just trying to think back to what era that was for them, but that they were one of the teams that we loved to watch, and I would openly admit tactically used to watch their games and see the positions of their players on the pitch and principles of play, and try and bring that into my team at the time. So I can't give you a direct sort of time where that was in the Arsenal, but certain players that I love to watch, and obviously we ended up signing Jack Wilshere as well, and Jack was a player that I'd love to watch under Arsene Wenger and his style of play and what he brought to Arsenal. So I think there's a link there, and Jack was a brilliant player for me.
In terms of team news, are you able to welcome back any players who haven't been available over the last few weeks?
We have another training session, so there's a possibility, but I don't know.
14 different scorers I was reading so far this season for Newcastle. What does that say about the type of football that you're generating here at the club, and what's it say about the squad as well, I suppose?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes these things happen. For me, it's a really good thing for us that we have goals in every area, every department, and that I include every phase of play. So whether that's crosses, whether it's counter-attacking, whether it's set plays, you need to try and have all the options available to you to score. So I think that's a good sign for that. It's also a good sign of our individual ability. We do have players that can produce memorable moments, so a really good sign.
With St James's Park, obviously the atmosphere has been massively changed under Eddie Howe. Just what were your memories of it last season? How much do you take from the way the squad sort of coped with it and got a result?
When you play football, you want to play in those atmospheres, like going to Seville. You know what you're going to get. It's an incredible privilege to play in those grounds, and you have to embrace the moment and enjoy it and go for it, because it's worth it. This is the arenas that you want to be tested in.
Talked a little bit about Joe Willock already. Just how far can his talent take him in the game now that you've worked with him a couple of years, do you think? Because he's looked absolutely supreme since coming back from injury.
Yeah, I think with Joe, I think he's, firstly, the player and the person, they're always interlinked. I think he's maturing really nicely. I think he's, he's had a difficult few years. He's moved from Arsenal to here. It's a big move. It's a lot of change in his life. But I'm seeing a real maturity in his demeanour, in the way that he approaches his training, and the approach this injury, because it's very difficult when you get a sort of a long-term injury and you have to get your head around it, you have to understand it, and then you have to do the work, and it's really unglamorous. You're on your own a lot of the time. You've got to commit to the work. You've got to be disciplined. So the fact he's come back looking so good, I think, is testament to that maturity, really.
I remember when you spoke about Anfield before, you described it as a jungle. How would you describe going to St James's Park?
An incredible football atmosphere.
Weren't able to get goals against them in last season, but they've got incredible strength, young, talented players going forward. So will it be a case of you getting that balance right on tomorrow?
Well, I think they have improved. I said earlier, from last year, I think they've stepped forward and gone another level. And yes, you're right, we didn't manage to score against them last year, but I thought they were two really tight games, two really good games. So we're going to have to find ways, to cause them problems and to make life difficult for them. I always say, and I hate to repeat myself, but the crowd's involvement, our ability to get our crowd into the game, our ability to create the game that we want will be absolutely fundamental, and balance is always a key word to use in that, between attacking and defending.